going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here to talk to you about the Iron Fist Epic Collection, Volume 1, The Fury of Iron Fist. This is a big book here. This collects a whole bunch of comics. Marvel Premiere 15 through 25, Iron Fist 1 through 15, Marvel Team Up 63 and 64. So that's like 500-something pages of comics. And I like this book for the most part. There are some things that I will talk about here in a minute, but overall I really enjoyed myself. I have always wanted to get into the Bronze Age Iron Fist stuff, and for whatever reason I just never got around to it until very recently, but this does a lot of the same stuff that the Iron Fist Netflix series does, and that was by far my least favorite part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe was Iron Fist Season 1. But this book does a lot of the same stuff that that season does, but it does it in very different ways. And in some ways, I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the Netflix series and I'm thinking, okay, the Netflix series actually did this a little bit better. But then in a lot of ways, I'm looking at this comic and I'm saying, yeah, well done for doing this better almost 40 years before the Netflix series. So I guess I should just get right into it. The big thing about this book is it reminds me of another comic book from Marvel around the same time. In the 1970s, there was a comic book, I think it was called Skull the Slayer, and it was about this group of people. They plane crash on an island, and it turns out that time is all weird, and it's like a time crux thing on the island, and then there's Nazis and dinosaurs on the island, and I talked about that comic a few years ago, and I really didn't like that book because every couple of issues the creative team would change, and then every time the creative team would change, it felt like the status quo and the direction of the series would drastically change, and you never got a feeling of what the book was going to be or what it was supposed to be, because every 2 issues it would change and you couldn't get a feel for the book. I kind of get the same thing with this series, although it handles itself a little bit better. So the very first issue in the book is written by Roy Thomas with penciling by Gil Kane, and then the next issue is written by Len Wein with penciling by Larry Hama. I'm going to take a pause real quick. I had no idea that Larry Hama was a penciler. I think he's most well known for writing G.I. Joe in the 80s and writing Wolverine in the 90s. He had almost 100 issues on Wolverine, and he had a pretty long run on G.I. Joe too, but both of those were as writer, and I had no idea that he also was a penciler, and his penciling is pretty good here. I like his penciling quite a bit here. But anyway, then you get 3 issues of Doug Monk as writer with Larry Hama as penciler, and then you get 3 issues of Tony Isabella and Arvell Jones doing the book, and then finally you get Chris Claremont and Pat Broderick. Pat Broderick is a name you might know. He was the penciler on the 1980s Captain Atom series. They do a couple of issues together, and then following Pat Broderick on the book, you have John Byrne penciling, and then John Byrne and Chris Claremont, they stay on until the end of the book. A whole lot of creators coming in and out of this book, and also the editor kind of changed a few times. At the very beginning, I believe Roy Thomas was still the editor of the book, and then by the very end, Archie Goodwin is the editor, and I think maybe there was another editor in the middle there. I could be mistaken, but a whole lot of creators coming in and out of this book in a pretty fast amount of time. In the first 3 issues, you have 3 separate writers, and that becomes apparent when you're reading this, when one writer is very clearly not interested in a subplot that another writer set up, and so they will just kind of very quickly wrap it up in a way that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. For example, in the very first issue, you have Iron Fist. He is in Kunlun. He's doing some final test, and then he says, okay, here's a flashback when I was a kid. Harold Meacham killed my dad and then left me and my mom for dead, and then my mom died, and then I was rescued by the people of Kunlun, and then I have trained in martial arts for 10 years, and now Kunlun is about to reappear on Earth, and then I'm going to go out into Earth, and I'm going to find Harold Meacham, and I'm going to kill him. So that's the status quo of the series. And then in the next issue, Iron Fist is just walking through New York City. He's attacked by a few people who are told to look for the guy with the Iron Fist logo. I can't tell if you can see that on the cover, but that dragon logo on his chest. Some people were told to find the person with that logo on his chest and kill him. And then at the end of the issue, you find out that Harold Meacham sent these people. He is expecting Iron Fist. And then you get an issue where he is trying to get through the Rand Meacham building, and there's all these booby traps for him, and then he fights another guy, and then finally, like 4 issues into the series, he gets to Harold Meacham, and you find out Harold Meacham is old, and I think he's lost his legs. That happened shortly after he killed Danny's dad, and then he says, you know, I'm a shell of what I once was. I want you to kill me. And then Danny says, no, I'm not going to. And there's this ninja, and by this point, we are in Doug Monk's run on the book, his brief run, and there's this ninja who has been following Iron Fist around in the Rand Meacham building. He's secretly been helping Danny, and then when Danny refuses to kill Harold Meacham, then this guy, this ninja, comes in and he kills Harold Meacham. And then Harold Meacham's daughter, Joy Meacham, comes in and she thinks that Danny has killed Harold Meacham. And then by that point, you get into the Tony Isabella run, and then we are introduced to Colleen Wing and her father, I don't remember his name, Lee Wing, and he is a professor, and he has this ancient book that people have been trying to kill him for like a couple of decades over this book. I think 41 times people have been making attempts on his life, so he hires Danny to be his bodyguard. And then you find out that Lee Wing is actually the ninja, even though Lee Wing has an entirely different body type than this ninja. And then later on we are told that Lee Wing was helping Danny. He went and killed Harold Meacham because he needed Danny to protect him. And we find out that the ninja is actually the ghost of a ninja who lived like 500 years ago, and he's only possessing Colleen Wing's father, and he needed to protect Danny so that Danny could protect the human vessel that this ghost of a ninja had possessed. But that doesn't make any sense because the ninja was out here helping Danny before Danny ever met Lee Wing. So it doesn't make any sense at all that Lee Wing is being possessed by this ninja and he's going out here fighting Danny's battles for him because he was doing that before Danny ever met Lee Wing. And it's clear to me that Tony Isabella didn't have much investment in who this ninja was. It seemed to me that the idea under Doug Monk's run was that the ninja had actually been hired by Harold Meacham's brother, Ward Meacham. If you've seen the Netflix series, Ward and Joy are brother and sister, and they are both the children of Harold Meacham. Here, Harold and Ward are brothers, and Joy is Harold's daughter. But it seemed pretty clear that when Joy calls her uncle and says, hey, my father just died, he doesn't seem that surprised. He's on the phone like, oh no, this is horrible, but he's like propped back, he's leaning back, and he seems pretty pleased with himself. And so I was thinking, okay, he hired this ninja to go and do what Iron Fist was going to do if Iron Fist couldn't do the job. Because Harold was expecting Iron Fist to come, and then we are told that Harold had told Ward about a lot of this stuff. So I was thinking that Ward hired this ninja so that he could be more in control of the company. But then we find out, no, this ninja has to do with like everything that's happened in the series so far except for Ward Meacham. He is like the one subplot in this series that the ninja actually wasn't connected to, and that doesn't make any sense. And then by the time you get to the Chris Claremont run, once again I get the feeling that Chris Claremont is interested in some of the stuff that the series is doing, but not all of the stuff. So he has the character Engar the Screamer, who is this hippie who has sonic scream powers, and basically he can make you hallucinate with his scream. This guy basically destroys Lee Wing's mind, and then Lee Wing is basically out of the series from that point. And I get the feeling Chris Claremont was like, okay, I really like the idea of this martial artist guy from this alien city that appears on Earth once every 10 years, but I don't really like Lee Wing. I don't like Colleen Wing as much as her partner Misty Knight. Misty Knight, I think, had been in the book about 1, maybe 2 issues before Chris Claremont came on board. She shows up out of nowhere, I think in the Tony Isabella run, and attacks Iron Fist because she thinks that Iron Fist is responsible for Colleen being kidnapped. And then it seems like everyone prior to Chris Claremont coming on the book was trying to set up Colleen Wing and Danny to be in a relationship. There's one part where they're walking in the park somewhere, kind of holding hands, but then once Chris Claremont comes on board, that plan is pretty much immediately discarded, and then eventually the book is working towards Misty Knight and Misty Knight and Danny being in a relationship. And I actually like their relationship a little better than Danny and Colleen, although I like the platonic friendship friendship between Colleen and Danny, but I like the romantic relationship between Misty and Danny. But there's a lot of stuff where you get the feeling that a writer will come in and they'll say, okay, I don't really want to do that thing. Like the ninja thing, that is resolved in such a weird way, and then once you get to the Chris Claremont run, there is this evil sorcerer who wants to kill the princess of a foreign country called Halwan, I think, and this sorcerer, Master Khan, he even takes ownership of the ninja. He says that that ninja worked for me, and I was thinking, no he doesn't. That ninja was like 400 years old, and he was trapped in a book, and then he was possessing Li Wing. He didn't work for you at no point. You weren't even in the book at that point. So there's a whole lot of moments in this series where I feel like if it had just been one consistent creative team from beginning to end, it would have been a little better. It would have been streamlined a little bit more. But when you have like 5 different creative teams in the span of like 10 issues, it's a little lumpy because you'll have someone come in and they will be interested in this one part of the book, but they're not interested in this other part, so they'll ignore something altogether, or they will completely retcon it in a way that doesn't make any sense. For example, once Danny is cleared of murdering Harold Meacham, there's like 7 issues where we don't see Joy Meacham or Ward Meacham again at all. And I keep thinking, okay, are they going to show back up again? And then out of nowhere, Davos, you probably remember him from the Netflix series, he shows up in the book. And the difference between Davos here and in the Netflix series, Davos is a childhood friend of Danny. Here, Davos is quite a bit older than Danny. He was actually exiled from Kunlun before Danny was even born. And he was actually friends with Danny's father, sort of. Anyway, Davos shows up, and then he makes an alliance with Joy and Ward Meacham, saying, I want to kill Iron Fist, and you guys want Iron Fist dead. And I'm a little confused, because Iron Fist has already been cleared of murdering Ward Meacham. The police heard the ninja confess to killing Ward Meacham, and so they said, okay, you're no longer under arrest, you're no longer, we're not going to be hunting you down anymore. And then there's like 7 issues where we don't see the Meachams anymore, and then suddenly they show up again, and they still want Iron Fist dead. And I feel like we needed an explanation of like, okay, the police say that he didn't kill my father, but I walked in and Iron Fist was right there in the room with my father, so I know that he did it, even though we, the audience, know that he didn't do it. Something like that would have been great, but then they just show up again, and then the Meachams are not nearly as present in this as you would think that they are if you have watched the Netflix series. They are only casually recurring characters. Towards the end of the book, Joy Meacham, she starts to figure out that her dad was into some pretty shady stuff, and her uncle is into some pretty shady stuff. And then at one point, she sends Davos to go and attack her uncle, and basically send the message, you are to withdraw yourself from Meacham completely, withdraw yourself from the company, you are no longer part of this company. I don't know at this point, is she just trying to protect the family name, kind of cut herself off from her uncle who's doing some illegal stuff? Because at one point she even is thinking to herself like, clearly Dad wasn't a very good guy, and neither is my uncle, but I guess I'm kind of like them. And it's interesting because in the Netflix series, and I guess I'm just kind of doing a compare and contrast here between this and a Netflix series, but in the Netflix series, Joy Meacham is played a lot like Lana Lang from Smallville. She's a childhood friend, she's known Danny since forever, and these two are bosom buddies, and then at the end of the season, she finds out that Danny had something to do with her father dying, and she knows that her father was doing some really awful stuff, and then she doesn't care, she's just angry at Danny for killing her dad. And it doesn't really make sense. It makes the character seem really stupid whenever she knows that her dad was evil, and then she's still angry at Danny. It just doesn't work. Now, in this comic, Joy and Danny, they are not childhood friends. That is a change that the Netflix series made, I believe, unless that was a retcon in the comics that came after this book. But the Netflix series makes them childhood friends. In this comic, it does not tell us that these two knew each other before Danny returns from Kunlun. And that's a change that makes sense. If you're going to have their fathers be business partners, it makes sense that their respective children would have grown up near each other. But if you're going to make that change, that these two have known each other forever, then you're going to have to change the way that Joy Meacham becomes evil, which is clearly what they were kind of working for. In this, it makes it seem like Joy Meacham isn't necessarily a good person. She knows full well that her dad and her uncle are bad people, and she doesn't care. She's more interested in protecting her family name and making her family appear to be squeaky clean in the public eye, and she wants to kill this guy who she starts to think maybe he didn't have anything to do with her father's death, but she doesn't care. She wants him dead, probably because he knows that her family isn't squeaky clean. Something like that would have worked, but the problem is we only see Joy Meacham like once every 5 issues at a certain point, and then she just kind of disappears. There are a lot of dropped subplots in this book. For example, the Meacham Company. At one point, Sabretooth shows up in the second to last issue of the series, and he has been hired to kidnap Danny's lawyer, Jaren Hogarth, who in this is a guy. In the Netflix stuff, Jerry Hogarth is a woman and is also very evil. Here, Jaren Hogarth isn't evil, but Sabretooth was hired to kidnap Hogarth by somebody, and we don't know who that was, and we never find out. I have Googled all up and down the internet, and I cannot find anywhere where that subplot was eventually resolved. Who hired Sabretooth? We don't know. So there is stuff like that. At one point, there's introduced this idea that the UT, who is, that's YU-TI, the UT was responsible for Danny's father's death, sort of. He drove Wendell Rand out of Kunlun because Wendell Rand was the UT's older brother, but somehow the UT said Wendell Rand should not become the next UT of Kunlun. It needs to be me. Somehow he's responsible for driving Wendell Rand out of Kunlun, so he's indirectly responsible for Danny's dad dying. And so this subplot is introduced like halfway into this book, and it's acting like, oh, okay, Danny is now going to try and find a way to go back to Kunlun, even though the city won't appear on Earth for another 8 years, and he's going to get revenge on the UT for trying to, basically being responsible for killing his dad. It kind of makes the UT, who started off kind of like a sympathetic supporting character, kind of like the Alfred to Danny's Batman, and then it says, just kidding, he's actually evil and he has ulterior motives, and then doesn't do anything with that for like 10 more issues, and then the very last page of the book, the UT and Lei Kung the Thunderer, who he's the guy who trained Danny, they're both like, you know, Lei Kung, your son just died, and Danny, he's out there and he's probably never coming back, and it's like these two are friends now, and I'm thinking, I don't get it. You were playing the UT like he was kind of a bad guy, and that was within the Chris Claremont run. That might have been right before John Byrne came on the book, but or it might have been in the early parts of the John Byrne Claremont partnership, but they were acting like UT was going to be a threat that the series was going to be dealing with later on, and then it's like, oh, we forgot to do that, so okay, UT, he's not as bad as we thought, I guess. And I believe the UT does show up later on in the Ed Brubaker Matt Fraction stuff, and I think he was kind of a bad guy there, and I don't know if that's Danny's uncle or if that's a separate UT. But anyway, I did ultimately really enjoy this book. But if you get it, you have to understand that whenever a creator comes on and then leaves an issue later, and then, like I said, within 10 issues, I think you have 3 different creative teams, or 4 actually. When you have that fast of a rotating creative team, you're gonna have some bumps in the road. But ultimately, I really enjoyed this, and I was really pleasantly surprised to see a lot of the elements that I didn't care for in the Netflix series show up here and be handled a little bit better. The one thing that I think the Netflix series actually did do a little better was Danny's relationship with the Meacham family, and they were ongoing supporting characters, whereas here, Ward and Joy Meacham will show up and it's like, I'm going to get revenge, and then 7 issues later, hey, remember me? I still want revenge. I think that the Netflix series does a better job of keeping them in the foreground. Even if I wasn't interested in Danny spending 5 episodes trying to get back into the Rand Meacham Company, I think it did a better job of keeping that subplot percolating in each episode. So overall, I enjoyed this, and I was kind of sad at the end that we don't get a whole lot more solo Iron Fist for a good long while. The next time he appears is as the co-lead in the Heroes for Hire series, which used to be the Luke Cage Power Man series, and then that changed to Heroes for Hire, I think, with issue 50. That's the next we get of Danny, I believe, and then we don't get any more solo Iron Fist stuff until like the mid to late 90s. But anyway, that's about all I have to say about the Fury of Iron Fist. I hope you guys liked this review, and if you did, be sure to check out some of the other stuff that I do around here. In the meantime, I will see you guys in the future. Have a good one.